Well, we know it's Afghanis, it's Eritreans, it's Somalis, people from Sudan, people from Syria, Pakistan, elsewhere in the Middle East. It's not rocket science. And tied in with that, we also have the disturbing revelations that we've spoken about here, whereby almost every major terrorist attack in this country has been perpetrated either by an asylum seeker or by the children of asylum seekers.
The politics of the Middle East and the intimidation that goes with the politics of the Middle East is being transposed onto these shores, but also the behaviour and quite literally the behaviour of the Middle East coming over in small boats. So it's almost like we're living under siege. And if you are looking at your news feed on any given day, I've just recorded something about this, it's almost like it's an assault.
Hello and welcome to Newspeak, our weekly look at the news agenda. I'm here, as usual, I'm pleased to say, with Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, Senior Fellow, Royal Historian, and Amy Gallagher from Stand Up to Woke, and our other Senior Fellow, Dr. Philip Kiszley, who's also a national organiser, usually the point at which I say, What's happening?
What's happening in locals? Well, so much is happening in locals at the moment. This is going out on Saturday, so I think there are 3 events going on today, one of which is our London conference, of course. But there's lots of other stuff going on pretty much every day now. And locals really is a story of growth. We've grown by about a third over the last 3 months on various platforms. So we've got a thriving Facebook community, NCF Locals. If you'd like to join that, please do join that. We've also got a brilliant Substack as well, which I think is one of the best out there. It's really superb. There's lots of great stuff on that.
And that's written pieces.
That's written pieces, yeah. But there's some video content. Some of this content goes on there as well. So there's lots of really good stuff on there. So please do get in touch with us at locals@newcultureforum.org.uk. Get in touch. Be part of it. We are growing. We're going places. There's going to be lots of great stuff happening next year. I'm going to go on the road again and go around to some of the branches. So it's all great.
It is very, very good. Brilliant news. First things first today, I read this piece in the Telegraph by Michael Deakin, who's a columnist in the Telegraph. But I think it's a very good talking point when you look at what's been happening over the past few days this week. He's saying we should have a national emergency, or that we have reached the point of a national emergency when it comes to migrant crime. Rafe, would you agree with him?
I think it's undeniable. I think you'd have to have your head in the sand not to know that there is an absolute crisis going on. Every week, if not every day, it seems that there's another incident that happens. Whether it gets reported or not by the mainstream media is one thing, but quite often these things are increasingly not being spoken about by the BBC and others. But it's robbery, it's theft, it's violence, it's sexual assault, it's rape. All have increased exponentially thanks to mass immigration. And you can see, we know exactly which nationalities are causing the greatest amount of crime. So this is not to say that all migrants are doing this. You know, people from Japan and Switzerland are not on the list. In fact, they're underrepresented against the British national average. But we know it's Afghanis, it's Eritreans, it's Somalis, people from Sudan, people from Syria, Pakistan, elsewhere in the Middle East. It's not rocket science. And tied in with that, we also have the disturbing revelations that we've spoken about here, whereby almost every major terrorist attack in this country has been perpetrated either by an asylum seeker or by the children of asylum seekers. You'll remember how Starmer and the media tried to say it was disinformation to link the Southport murders to the asylum system because there was a Welsh choir boy involved. Well, that Welsh choir boy, Axel Rudikabana, was the child of asylum seekers. And we know that the children are just as likely to have mental health issues and other troubled aspects to their lives. So there is a huge crisis facing this nation. Nobody in the political world seems to be willing to rise to the level of understanding that this is at the point now where you are prioritizing, for political correctness and this idea of being kind, you are prioritizing foreigners over the health and well-being of British nationals.
I think actually that point, though, you refer to it as a matter of kindness, right? That is actually I think, a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
It was a ideological shift that saw welfare as being a worldwide thing. And that therefore, I think we might have mentioned it before, but I think it was somebody like David Goodhart mentioned he was having a conversation with someone very high up in the BBC, and it became quite clear to them that they saw global welfare. They weren't interested in the welfare, actually, the British.
No, it's a kind of patriarchy, isn't it? It's a paternalism for the whole world, and it's bizarre. But it isn't just those. I agree, it's both of those things very much so. But it's also the Muslim bloc vote as well, isn't it? And the government and the smaller parties, your party and the Green Party, are fighting for that Muslim bloc vote. So the politics of the Middle East and the intimidation that goes with the politics of the Middle East is being transposed onto these shores, but also the behavior and quite literally the behavior of the Middle East coming over in small boats. So it's almost like we're living under siege. And if you are looking at your news feed on any given day, I've just recorded something about this. It's almost like it's an assault. You know, it's a digital assault because you're experiencing through your phone all of the mayhem that is going on the streets. And we used to live in a law-abiding society with fairly homogenous communities and a culture that was based in kind of lawfare essentially, and that has just disappeared. It's kind of gone overnight. And there's a sense that if you're walking out in the street, certainly in the evening, I tend to get taxis everywhere. And I know lots of people who do, because city centres are just not safe places anymore. And that is down to mass immigration. That is down to the people wandering around, these people who often are on benefits, often feel as though they're entitled to anything that they can get. And there is a sense of violence. There is a sense of menace in the air. And that's just what British culture is becoming. So we have to not be complacent. We, the last thing we should be doing is looking at our phones and saying, oh my God, aren't things getting terrible? We need to do something about it. We need to lobby. We need to protest. We need to be out there, because if we don't, nothing will happen.
Hello. Please excuse this brief interruption, but I'd be really grateful if you could please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel. Our mission is vitally important, and we must grow this channel to ensure that our content reaches the biggest possible audience. The best way to do this is for you to subscribe. It's totally free. And in addition to subscribing, if you're able to donate or join our membership scheme, please click on the link in the description or visit our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. We've got great plans ahead, but we can't do it without your support. From only £4 per month, you'll receive a range of perks and benefits, including exclusive content. Thank you. Having in mind, particularly this week, this case of the dog walker who's been killed, and a couple of other murders besides, just happening now, commonplace.
Yeah, it feels like things are becoming more unsafe almost on a weekly basis. It feels like things are being ramped up. Like, I would say it felt like it was a national emergency a long time ago. I would have thought like the Manchester Arena bombing would have prompted
We're
people.
talking about 10 years?
Yeah, prompted people to say it's a national emergency. And then with the, rapid increase with the grooming gangs, but also the increase just generally in rape and the overrepresentation of migrants with rape and sexual assault, I thought that would have been considered a national emergency for girls and women. But I thought maybe it would take people actually being murdered. Maybe rape isn't enough. Maybe if there's kind of regular murders happening, I know it sounds dark to say, but that would be when people say it's a national emergency. But I don't even know what that kind of rhetoric does, labelling it a national emergency. I mean, people have been speaking about this issue for so long now and screaming about it and voting against it, and nothing seems to happen. I mean, we had the Epping migrant sex attacker being released from prison via a mistake, that to me feels like an escalation in things becoming more unsafe. That even when somebody is, that was the one thing I thought, well, at least they got him and they charged him and they put him in prison. But even that, was undone within a few weeks. We've seen the guilty verdict of Rhiannon White, who was working in an asylum hotel, was stabbed to death with a screwdriver by I think he was from Sudan, asylum seeker or illegal migrant. And then this Uxbridge murder, a dog walker murdered, a 14-year-old boy stabbed. These could have been murders as well. And as Philip says, I try not to become desensitized to it, but it's almost hard to take in because particularly with this migrant who was this prisoner who was released early and was just wandering around, it almost felt like if you did, you had to laugh at it rather than cry because it was so absurd, and you just feel like you're seeing the country actually just fall apart in front of your eyes, and you think, what's next? It feels terrifying.
Well, we were talking. Sorry, we were talking about this just the very thing before we started this program. Just recording something with Charlie Kirk and Alice Grant, and we brought up the same thing. Absolutely, I was away in another part of the country that I'm not usually in North Norfolk. This week, life is sort of going on, and yet you think there's this alternative reality at the same time, which to me is what I would call reality. It's not alternative. Who's living now in the alternative reality? Is it us or is it them sitting there, perfectly decent people in the pub having, their lunch, and you sort of think, do you even know or care what's going on?
Well, they're just 20 years behind the times. It will come to them eventually. It's already lapping at the shores of their towns, Norwich and elsewhere to a lesser degree. But there's another issue here. There's another aspect of this we often don't speak about, because it's more than just the lone wolves. It's also organized crime. Yeah. And the way that criminal gangs now dominate all aspects of the British underworld. In the old days, it used to be people like the Crays and, the South London chaps. This is my manor. That's all gone now. And so there's a show, a very good drama on Sky called Gangs of London. And they show the Kurds control the drug trade in the north. You've got the Bangladeshis controlling it in the east. You've got the Albanians in central London. All of London has now been divided up between foreign criminal gangs who control the prostitution, who control the drugs trade, who control modern day slavery, and they are extremely violent. I mean, they make the Italian mafia look like this, the Vienna Boys Choir. And that's another aspect to life here. That's the reason why you're getting all these mobile phones being stolen. These are criminal gangs organizing the theft of mobile phones. London is the center of the Western world for losing your mobile phone at the hands of these sorts of chaps. So it's much more than just thinking about these asylum seekers. The entire system is corrupt, and we've allowed this to happen for decades now.
Yeah. Well, this is why we're talking about a national emergency. When we say national emergency, we need it. The government needs to declare it. I can't remember when the last one was. Was it in the early 70s?
Yes, so the state of emergency.
Yeah, state of emergency. So it is that bad. But when Rafe frames it in those broader terms, and you think about organized crime in that way, and literally the capital city given over in underworld terms to that kind of thing, and it's the same in Manchester, and it's the same in Leeds, and it's the same in Birmingham. My God, Jews can't even walk the streets in Birmingham. Forget the underworld. So you see how big the job is. You see how far we've fallen. You see how much of our country we've given over. And if that aspect of the country is completely given over, the underworld, the crime aspect, that you just can't get that back, because as Rafe says, it's so incredibly violent. So something radical needs to be done, but of course it won't be done. But certainly it won't. The impetus won't come from the impetus won't come from the government. There will not be a national emergency declared.
No. So what? Right. So where do we go? So I'm not being disingenuous.
No, I don't know.
It's a huge question.
I don't know. I don't think anything's going to happen until the next general election. I just think things will just get worse. And there was a poll out recently saying Nigel Farage is now more popular than Keir Starmer. That's for the first time he's the most popular leader. And I think that all of this is just going to mean that more and more people will just wait and vote reform. But in the meantime, there's going to be absolute chaos. And it feels terrifying. I mean, I know so many people I know are talking about leaving London or leaving the country.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about that one time.
Yeah, I'm talking with my...
Well, I've left London, but I mean, you were thinking...
leaving London, definitely, yeah.
Still?
Yeah, I'm looking, yeah.
I mean, look, there are things that can be done. Always remember, New York, far more multicultural than London was. And the crime center of North America, murder capital of North America, they were able to completely transform their society. And New York became a wonderful place to live at the turn of the century, thanks to the policies of Mayor Giuliani. Look what happened in El Salvador, where the president of El Salvador was able to actually, the most crime-ridden country in the world, was able to turn that around by getting tough and having draconian policies. There are things that can be done. It just needs a government that has the will to do it, the mandate to do it, and the cojones to carry it through.
Exactly. I think the difference there is that those governments and the Mayor of London at that time and the culture at that time hadn't been mired in identity politics for the last 30 years. And I think
about to get a kind of quasi-Marxist mayor.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the huge difficulty. It's like everything else. It's like culture, isn't it? And it's like turning a tanker in the sea. It's so difficult because of what's been going on at least since 1997. But in real terms, from the whole of the post-war era, we're here at the end of this era now. It's all of that post-war settlement stuff, which has been about left-wing identity politics, no matter who's in power. It's been about mass immigration. It's been about all of those things, essentially Marxism. And that is just so difficult to take on because it's so ingrained. And if you think about what's happening with young people in university, school, college, all of that kind of stuff, they are mired in this and they won't think any different, mainly because they're lazy. We were just having a conversation about this before. They don't want to think about any different. They're perfectly happy with their green agenda, with trans politics, with thinking that multiculturalism is fine because most of them don't have to deal with it.
You mentioned there reform and waiting for reform and everything. What has been quite telling is that we've had these murders this week. There will be more next week. And yet the biggest fuss was about Reform MP Sarah Poching and her views on black or Asian people in ads. And indeed, I would suggest that it's not just a media thing. I think that's what most people are talking about.
Yeah, well, the culture aspect of adverts. Yeah, a lot of people say. I mean, she was on Talk TV and someone called in and brought up the issue, and then she responded. But I do feel like a lot of people notice it because, I mean, I actually don't really watch the BBC anymore, but I notice it when I go to the cinema that it's just so warped. It's just so propagandistic. It's hard not to notice it. And at a time when, we've had the raising of the colours this year, people kind of realising that the English identity or England matters and wanting to fight back in terms of what's happening to the rapid demographic change. And then when they put on their TV sets, they just feel like everything's just, against them. And I think it is something that people have noticed for a long time, but I think people are becoming more confident in speaking about it, which is why I think it touched a nerve. It's a bit like the way Robert Jenrick's comments about Birmingham, where you don't see any white faces, touched a nerve, because it's true. That's why everybody got so annoyed about it. And, they were saying, why is he saying it? And it's like, because he's just naming something. And the same with the adverts. It's like you can't disagree with the fact that everybody can see it, that the vast majority of adverts there are black people, and that does not represent the population at all.
But I don't know quite why we would call ourselves the right or whatever, has this capacity for somehow turning something that's a victory into a bloody defeat, by use of terrible language.
But it's also an opportunity for everyone to gang up whenever they find the slightest slip up, right? But the people who are attacking Sarah Pochin, who I know and I like very well, people attacking her, completely silent about the rape gangs.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the ones who don't give in. They're the same ones who are saying the countryside is too white. It's these same people who are now, of course, they don't see the hypocrisy behind their own arguments. This is clear social engineering that's happening. And it's not necessarily even by conspiracy. I mean, if you have a commercial break of 6 commercials, each company there wants to be seen to be doing the right thing.
And that's how it happens.
And so you have 6 commercials in a row. If there was one organization in charge of all commercials, you probably wouldn't have that many black people. But each company has to be seen to be doing the right thing. So you do feel as if you're being bombarded with all of this. And I'm sorry, Sarah Pochin was absolutely correct. Channel 4, not known for being terribly right-wing, came out with a detailed examination of this, and they found that despite being only 4% of the population, black people appear in more than 50%.
Yes, 51%, isn't it?
South Asians are 9% of the population. They appear in 17% of ads. East Asians, Chinese and Japanese, 1%, and they're at 8% of ads. And of course, that's why you ask the British public what the population of this country is black. And they increase it by 6 or 7 times the number because that's what they see. That's the reality. The other thing, of course, is when you do see a white person, invariably it will just be a white woman. If it is a white man, they'll be dim or dishonest, or incompetent, or useless, or evil in some capacity. And increasingly, of course, you'll also get multiracial families by a much higher level than you'll normally see. And there'll never be a white man. It'll usually be a black man with a white or olive-skinned woman, if there's a man at all, because increasingly they have these multiracial families with no male cousin whatsoever. It's clear social engineering.
That was actually marked out as a triumph last year at Christmas time, I think. John Lewis had a white family, but in fact there were no men. It was like the house of Bernarda Alba.
Well, I think it's as Ray said, it's not just about skin color, but if you are just seeing multiracial family, I can't remember the last time I saw a white marriage in an ad. I honestly can't. I'm not being facetious there. I honestly can't. But if you're only seeing that, you are fundamentally not seeing white working class people at all. They just don't feature at all on television, so it isn't just about skin, it's about culture, isn't it? And if you're talking about the programming as well, my God, if there's a comedy, it's going to be a trans comedy if it's on the BBC, so it's relentless. It's just the fact that it's relentless. Now, she was talking on live television, Talk is Live, and she was responding to a caller. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing in the world to be massively eloquent when you're thinking on your feet. It was a bit clunky, how she expressed herself, but she was absolutely right. I mean, I thought, Rafe, you just said 51%. I've only just realized it was 51%. I thought it was 50%, but it's more. It's 4% of the population. It's just absolutely insane. But that sense of dismantling who and what we are, our identity, and replacing it with something else, and replacing it with something you simply cannot criticize, because if you do, you're racist, you're focusing on the skin. No, it's actually about the culture. It's actually about dumping our heritage and replacing it with something else, somebody else's culture, because these people have different histories to us.
And it's still being racist, right? Because 50% black, and more than 50% of ads now feature black people. Yet they are half the number of black people that there are Asians. Asians only feature in about 17%. And a large part of that is because a lot of advertisers don't think that Asians are well enough integrated into society. And they think that white people will be better able to accept a black person having a barbecue or going down to the football match or engaging in normal white type of activities. So they're trying to be so politically correct. They're actually saying, well, the Asians aren't quite like the rest of us.
The whole ideology is fundamentally racist, isn't it? Because we had Dawn Butler responding to this, and she also said that Kemi Badenoch was white supremacy in blackface. So it's absolute racism. It's using racist imagery, racist language, appropriating that, and saying, oh, so what? I'm black. I can do that,
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it annoyed me a little bit, the reaction to it. I mean, she apologised, didn't she? I don't think she should have apologised.
Oh, no, never apologised.
I don't know why she did apologise. And it doesn't change anything. It's not like they go after you any less. If anything, they see that you're conceding, and then they go more. And you did see a lot of people in Reform saying, what she said, I think Nigel Farage said that what she said was wrong and ugly, but not racist. And I thought, well, I don't think it is that wrong or ugly, really. She said she's mad about seeing lots of black people, lots of Asian people, lots of ethnicities that aren't white. And I thought, well, that's... Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. She wasn't saying she hates seeing black people full stop. She was saying, I hate the fact that I see all of these ethnicities and no white people. So she's making, the left have been going on about representation for years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's representation.
Yeah,
she's making a representation
and she's saying,
argument.
well, hang on, I'm mad that this one particular group, white people, aren't represented in adverts. And, the left have been saying that for years about every other ethnicity. So I don't think there should have been this kind of bending over backwards to say, she's, the way she expressed it and the words she used. And I just think they should have just said, so what, But
the thing is that what that really means is that things haven't changed in the sense that in America, it did work that the Republicans started to pick and choose who they went on and who they said things to because they have they've got Fox, going back. We don't have that. And still... people are minding their P's and Q's about what they say. Nothing is changing.
That's right.
And we can sort of like say, oh, well, the Overton window moves. Yeah, sure it is. And you can say certain things. But at the same time, essentially, if you want political power anyway, you trim and trim and trim and trim. That's what's been so inspiring about, I think, in some ways, America. I just want to ask, look, this is, we're in 2025. When would you say that this obsession with race to the point where actually, if you were kind of settling in this country now, you'd think, oh, this is Britain's great problem, right? When did this really ramp up? 2020?
2020, yeah. Black BLM.
So the past 5 years, until that point, tell me if I'm wrong, it wasn't even really on the immigration might have been, but the whole racism thing was kind of put to bed.
Well, I suppose it depends which circles you moved in. I was in academia, and I was painfully aware of it in about 2015-16, actually. So there, within the institutions, it was very prevalent, and it was gaining real traction. But I agree. I think BLM really sent people crazy, didn't it? Everyone was dropping on their knees and confessing racism and this, that, and the other. So I think it was that. So, but I think in real terms, where it came from, I think it's at least a decade old.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday I was watching something that was made in 2017, and it was set in I think it was the 1500s, and they were still, you had black people in England. So they were doing that colorblind casting as early as that. And in fact, you can watch a lot of sort of long form American TV shows that were on for about 10 or 15 years. And you can see each stage of the arrival of woke, where a very good series, suddenly you have these small women who are beating up these big men all the time. And then suddenly every lead character is an ethnic minority, and then an ethnic minority woman. You can really chase it. So it has been about 10 years.
I think it's been about 10 years. But I think the really important point is the point that Amy made about the apology, right? And I saw she'd apologise, and I tweeted, never apologise to these people, because they don't want to engage in that, in that exchange of you're sorry, they'll just use it to bash you over the head with. And the apology, as you've just said, demonstrates that the framework, the ideological framework, is exactly the same. In other words, Reform are working within the opposition's framework, and they are ceding to the opposition's language. They are ceding ground to that vocabulary of that race vocabulary. So that was, for me, that was really depressing. Yeah. You think you're moving forward, you think things are changing, but you're really not, because structurally it's exactly the same.
I just sort of, whether people are frustrated or angry about this, this is, to be repetitive, I'm sorry, but essentially, are people as concerned about this as we are? Are they? Or are they just happily going along? I'm thinking of like the Gogglebox families, you know what I mean? They haven't responded to the news. Of course, they're not going to have them saying very controversial things, of course. Although someone did, I think, and then he was not on the show anymore. But that general thing of basically how much of a real universe are they living in? They think they're living in ordinary, everyday life, getting on with their lives, quite comfortable, taking interest in the news, might not like Farage, might quite like Robert Jenrick or whatever, but there's no sense really of urgency about this, and yet all the facts there standing in front of you are all urgent.
But they must do. I always think with older people as well, or people my age and above, is that we all know what it was like before 2020. Like we have memories of the 90s, and we know that we were really on track for a colourblind society. That whenever there was an instance of racism, which was rare, it was called out, and pretty much most people got along, and they didn't see skin colour. And at 2020, it totally flipped, where it became about demonisation of white people, complete division. And I look at, people that are now going along with this, I think, but I know that you lived in a time when we didn't have any of this. And you must have a memory of that time. So I don't understand how you can act like this new world we're living in is normal. So that's why I sort of think I don't get how you can just be so relaxed.
I think one of the points about that as well, if you look at the polls from that time, from the late 90s and the very early noughties, black people, black communities, as we would call them now, were actually pretty happy.
Yeah.
All of the stats said that they were fine. They were, they were happy living in Britain or England. They saw themselves as British or English. There wasn't a huge amount wrong. Their lives were getting much better. And now they've been, taught to hold a grudge and by the white middle classes. I think to get back to your question about do people know, do people realize? I think lots of people are beginning to, but I don't think they know how to respond. In other words, I don't think they have the toolkit within themselves to say, well, what do we do about this? How do we mobilize? This is what I keep saying all the time in all videos, because they've had it ingrained in them that, we just carry on and don't look back in anger and all of that stuff. So how do you get beyond that? I can understand in a way that ordinary people just don't know how to do that unless they watch this kind of stuff and they watch the alternative media, but many people don't, and I can understand how they feel.
Yes, yeah, it's a very, very difficult one. We're actually going to be carrying on a little bit now, talking about another aspect of this, which is the hunt for the appalling male white oppressor in all aspects of our society. But that's it actually for this week. Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Rafe. And we shall see you next time. Bye-bye. Our mission at the New Culture Forum is and always has been to defend and celebrate Britain's history, culture, and its people, and indeed Western civilization, at a time when both are under sustained attack. We have grown from small beginnings to become the country's most influential right-leaning cultural think tank. Our content is watched and read by some of Britain's most influential political figures. But now, we need your help. If you believe in what we do, then please do become a member. For as little as £4 a month, you can make a vital contribution to what we do. As a member of the NCF family, you will help ensure that we can continue to produce quality content online, such as our 3 weekly programs, Whittle, which is our flagship interview show, Newspeak, our panel discussion show, and Deprogrammed, which is targeted at Britain's youth. As you probably know, in addition, we produce important documentaries, such as our critically acclaimed 6-part series, The West, a stunning celebration of the history and genius of Western civilization. And our ongoing documentary series, Heresies, with hard-hitting episodes tackling subjects such as immigration, gender ideology, and BBC bias. But the New Culture Forum is much more than a YouTube channel. We don't just complain about Britain as it is, we provide real solutions and clear policies on how we can push back against the madness and restore sanity to this nation. Our presenters are now highly sought after and have become familiar faces across the media. Our prestigious annual Smith Lecture and our regional and indeed national conferences have attracted world-class speakers. Perhaps most importantly, we are the only organisation on the right of politics that has launched a national movement without actually being a political party. And uniquely, through our NCF Locals programme, we've established some 30 active branches in towns and cities right across the nation, from Edinburgh to Exeter, and with many more on the way. We're very proud of what we've achieved, and our members have made it possible. In return, our members receive access to exclusive content, invitations to private events, free or discounted tickets to our conferences and lectures, free copies of our books, and much more. I very much hope that you'll join us too by clicking the link in the description or going to our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Now is the time that we need your help. Thank you.